It's really remarkable where we've come in Bitcoin. I remember having like discussions going back 7, 8 years ago, 4 years ago, on 5 years ago now on Clubhouse, talking with people, and people would come on stage. The government's going to ban it. What if the government bans it? And the first, I'd always say to them, which government? Right? Because Bitcoin is this global monetary network. So if one government bans it, it just maybe incentivizes other governments. So the whole like government banning it never really like scared me. Obviously, the U.S. is like, the big kid on the block who you didn't want that to happen. And now we've really come full circle to not banning it, but full on embracing and adopting it. I think we have to be careful and keep our, don't put blinders on, because, again, people are just going to act based on their incentives in the end. So we need to be careful about governments accumulating positions. It shouldn't change what you do. You should self-custody. You should buy Bitcoin. But as far as Eric Trump specifically, yeah, I was really impressed with his speech at Abu Dhabi. He spoke for like 30 minutes. It wasn't like a short thing. And I might not have watched all of it, but most of what I watched, he seems like he really gets it. Yeah, last night, Eric Trump posted a picture with Saylor, and it looks like it's at Mar-a-Lago, and Eric Trump said, 2 friends, 1 passion, Bitcoin, with like a rocket emoji. I mean, wow, right? Like the president's son is saying that. Who in government that's about to be in this new government is against Bitcoin? Like no one. It's literally no one. When I was fortunate enough to be at Saylor's New Year's Eve party, and there was a senator there. I'm not sure if I could say their name because I'll just generally. I said, "Oh, I didn't know you're into Bitcoin." They're like, "Yeah, I'm working with Senator Lummis on her bill." So the things are happening. There's things that are happening we don't even know about, that we're not even privy to on a daily basis, that are pro Bitcoin on its face, anyways. So I'm just really excited. Again, I do have the same concerns a lot of other people do, whether it's about large entities accumulating Bitcoin, governments accumulating Bitcoin. But I have my own understanding of Bitcoin, and just like, I guess, faith, not a blind faith, that the incentives will work themselves out. So I'm not fearful of the negative. I'm aware, but I think really good things are going to happen really quickly.
In saying that part, what are you most excited about? Because that made me think of just like what Ocean's doing. Like you said, the incentives are there to decentralize the system, to make it harder, to ossify, things of that nature. So like what Ocean's doing for helping this mining centralization problem, I guess we'll call it. And then you have, I think personally, some of the coolest stuff is a lot of like the personal mining that's coming out, right? Whether it's the space heaters or the water heaters and things like that. What are you most excited about in just the whole ecosystem right now?
Like getting individuals to mine is super cool. I was telling you before the show, I'm an advisor to a company called Abundant Mines, which does like co-location hosting in the Pacific Northwest. So right now, just in the United States. So you don't have to worry about some dictatorship stealing your miners. For new people to Bitcoin, I always say like buy Bitcoin first, learn how to self-custody, run a node if you want to dip your toe in something like mining. I think it's great to help, keep the hash power as distributed as possible. I think it's an awesome thing. Also, obviously mining, you have benefits like KYC Bitcoin, non-KYC Bitcoin, right? Which is cool. And for me, non-KYC Bitcoin is cool, not to like skirt the law or like to like evade taxes, but you should have the freedom that people don't know, what Bitcoin belongs to you and what doesn't. Like to me, that it just should be, that's like an ethical thing. Like you shouldn't know how much money I have or what money belongs to me. So I don't, that's how I come at it. So like the non-KYC aspect's really cool for mining yourself. And yeah, companies like, or, entities like Ocean, they're really, innovative, cool. I'm down for everybody just fucking going for it. As I said before, let the free market decide. If you have a good enough idea, people are going to adopt it. Just build, baby, build.
I mean, it really is the essence of a free market, right? I mean, Bitcoin is the truly only free open market we have out there. I had a lot of people confusing capitalism with the money we use, you know, and I was trying to explain to everybody, money is the foundation layer that the economic system sits on. And there was a lot of confusion of saying, it's like, well, they were confusing, like, we need inflation. Inflation is part of capitalism. And they were confusing. And I was just like, holy cow. I mean, it really brings you back down to this, again, this humility, ego thing we talk about, again, of just like understanding that and then really like meeting people where they are.
The open secret is that we've never really had capitalism. Like, even in the United States, it's like a crony capitalism. There's regulatory moats that stop capitalism and free markets from actually flowing. But as you said, Bitcoin really is the only free market that's really ever existed. It is the purest form of capitalism. No one's ever forced anyone to use Bitcoin or mine Bitcoin, right? If regulations are too burdensome somewhere, people will take their Bitcoin miners and go somewhere else. They're trying to find the cheapest form of energy all over the world. It is beautiful. It is exactly what capitalism and free markets are supposed to be about. So I get why people blame capitalism and free markets, because their lives are getting harder and worse, and they're told, oh, the US, it's the greatest country in the world because we have capitalism. Well, we don't really have capitalism. It's crony capitalism. So it's no surprise that you get more and more people like radicalized into having like more like socialistic views when the system isn't working for them and they think the system is capitalism. Of course, they're going to like go the other way. But this is where Bitcoin's super important, because it actually is a model for free markets and capitalism. And, when people get exposed to, I used to be like super liberal back in the day, and I had a lot of these thoughts, but Bitcoin really opened up my mind. It's a mind virus about human incentives and how things, really work when it comes down to it, and gone free, I guess you could say.
Well, let's actually unpack that really quick. You bring up something interesting. What are some of the things that it changed for you? Because I want to preface it with this. Like, I come from a very conservative political world that I grew up in the 2000s. I was very political. It was Constitution, founding fathers and all that jazz, and strong military. I mean, Bitcoin completely ripped my world open, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, as I'm learning about Bitcoin and then understanding, whoa, we've used the dollar, all this to weaponize and become an empire, do all these shenanigans and the financial system. You can't capitalism harder, bro. Like, that's why I still get a lot of people on the right. It's just like, we'll just be better, like just capitalism harder. It's like, well, you can't. And you kind of just outlined some of that, right? Like in the last couple of minutes. And that's where it just made me think of all this and now you're bringing up, coming from the left. So I think it's just a fascinating discussion, because it aligns everybody, and you realize like 99% of this didn't matter. So what are some of those things that you're like, because we all have those big things that it changed for us. What are some of those things where you're like, dude, that was a huge one. Like, that was a big thing that really shifted for me.
Yeah, I guess like I came from like a lower middle class family, so we never really like had that much. I mean, my parents were amazing, and always I didn't was shielded from like tough times, and just as I saw a lot of inequities in society, and wanted to be like, I want that stuff. Why is that not happening? And then you find things that confirm your thought process. So it's like, oh, again, if this is capitalism, well, it's not working for us, so screw this, right? Also, I was kind of like developing my political ideologies in the early 2000s. 9/11 happened. Then we went to Iraq, which had nothing to do with 9/11. So then I was against like the whole like Republican Party and a lot of Democrats. And so that's probably like why I started like forming my opinion. It's like, why are we spending money on foreign wars when, people are suffering here at home? So I think like that's kind of why I was started off probably more, to the left. But then Bitcoin kind of pulled me, I guess I'd say, to center. I don't identify with any party. I'm not registered anymore. I'm unaffiliated. Bitcoin just kind of, as you were saying, money is the foundation of a society. If the money is broken, why am I even going to waste my time debating like political issues? Right? It's like it's a complete waste of energy. So I'm going to refocus and focus on something that I think will help the world. And once I did that, I stopped caring about left, right, what's on the news on any given day, this immigration, that immigration, abortion, not abortion, whatever. And I'm like, focus on the money. And I'm able to because I, started off more, left, and then I came to Bitcoin, which tends to attract more right-leaning people naturally because they're about separating anything from government. So you separate money from government, of course, more conservative people are going to do that. At least in theory, conservatives are for those things. But once they get into government, they end up, not being conservative. So I kind of I look at the left of this country, I look at the right, and I kind of just observe. And I just see like how it's a circus. And it's all these people just acting in their own best interest. And then I'm like, all right, nope, I'm just going to focus on the money. I'm going to focus on Bitcoin and educating and advocating for that. And then eventually, like, as Bitcoin gets larger and larger and larger, the left-right paradigm gets smaller and smaller and smaller. These things will shrink to like, not like maybe complete irrelevance, but they will not have the sway over the hearts and minds, over the economic engine of this country and of the world.
If you like that clip, then you definitely got to check out this next spicy clip. I think you're really going to like it. Come on, check it out. But if you want the full version, the full interview, check that out over here. Come on, do it. We'll see you in there.